keep in mind it was a bill that in part it wanted abortion clinics to have the same standards as surgical ambulatory locations, safety of women. It wanted, it was a 20-week bill, meaning that abortions after 20 weeks can no longer happen in the state of Texas, and several other things. And immediately this guy steps out and says, well, this is horrible. I can't have sex on demand the way that I want to have it anymore. This is terrible. And he started his whole attempt at a movement called bro-choice, like pro-choice, but bro-choice. And then you've got these men, these boys on college campuses, and girls just as readily stepping up to the microphone when asked and saying, oh, well, yeah, I want to continue to have sex when I want to have it, and I don't want to, I don't like that. I don't like that I can't have abortion on demand anymore. Like, that's going to jeopardize the free sex that I can have. That is a frightening reality. But then you then you take that and you look at the pro-life people that I work with that are the same age, 20, 21, 22, that are so passionate about the issue, that recognize that a third of their generation has been exterminated through abortion. And they can't fight enough. They can't work enough. They can't volunteer with us enough because they know that they want abortion stopped in its tracks because they recognize it for the evil that it is. And so we're really at a very, I would like to say unique time, but maybe, you think about the slavery fight like you alluded to earlier, or the civil rights movement, a few decades back. And we're at that place again. We're at that place where good is confronting evil, light is confronting darkness, murder is confronting life, and we're facing it head on. And I think that's the only way that we're going to see it flipped back, is when we see our culture saying, yes, absolutely, that's a person. And what do I have to do to save that baby's life? What do we as a culture have to do to stop the atrocity of Roe v. Wade? That's when we're going to see it flipped, is that people are going to, again, recognize that it's not just a life inside of someone, it's a life worth fighting for.
Right. There's verses in the Bible that are popping off my head as you're talking. He talks about us being fearfully and wonderfully made, and that we're made in the image of God, and that He formed all our parts while we were in our mother's womb, and very clear about that. And God has a purpose for every human being that is conceived and will be born. And to take that life, that real human being that has a purpose and a plan that God has for it, and to take that life and deny that baby/person from fulfilling its purpose that God has created it for, is just incomprehensible to me. And it just is, think about what you're taking out of the world. And again, I've heard this argument over and over again that, you could be killing the person who has a cure for cancer, or a great, scientific mind, or a great political leader. And by killing these young babies, or these real life persons in the womb without regard, and then using abortion as contraceptive, which I think is unconscionable. But go ahead, Jennifer. I know you want to jump in here.
It's a couple nights ago at our state fair, I heard a couple came up, and there's sort of this den mother and father apparently for their neighborhood kids. They're the teenagers in their community just seem to gravitate toward them, and they were strangers to me, and they were telling me some of the stories from their neighborhood, which is just a random neighborhood in Iowa. And there's one young woman that they encounter that has had 7 abortions, and she's not even 18 yet. And and you think, and apparently their family has the girl's family, which just boiled it down to a joke. Oh yeah, that's that's what we do. And you think no matter how she's had an abortion, whether they're surgical abortions, whether they're chemical abortions, it doesn't matter. At least 7 babies have lost their lives at the hands of one young woman, who isn't even old enough to make decisions like that, for one. And for two, what is she doing to her body? Not only have all of these lives been snuffed out, there's just no regard for what she's done to her body, physically, emotionally, mentally. And that is the reality of what we're faced with the abortion industry wants. More abortions, not less. And you think, how does a young woman even survive the reality of someday she's going to want to have a baby. Someday she's going to be confronted with the reality of what she's done, quote unquote, legally in our country.
Right. Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Not just with snuffing out the lives of 56 million babies and counting, but what are we doing with the young men and the young women of our society?
Yeah.
Or the ones that have, we encounter different reactions when we're at a fair booth or at any booth. We encounter, people, it's almost involuntary. They'll make a face or scowl or, and then move on. But I can see it almost with spiritual eyes. I don't know if that's even fair to say, but it feels like that often. You're looking at somebody whose life is a pile of rubble because of the decisions that they made, and they're confronted with the humanity of the baby that they had a part in ending their life. The creator of our universe and of you and me and these unborn babies had a better plan, and it didn't include death. And it didn't include the death of these children, and it didn't include the death of countless men and women's souls. And we see it in any number of ways play out in our society. We see child abuse skyrocketing. We see beatings. We see murder rates in places like Chicago go through the roof. Dozens of people lose their lives in a weekend, on a random weekend in Chicago or elsewhere. We see, in Florida, a young man trick his girlfriend into taking the chemical abortion set, and she thinks she's taking antibiotics. We see an escalation of a society gone mad, and it doesn't take, I'm not the smartest person in the world, let alone in the state, and you point it back and you're like, where did we start to go off the rails? We started to go off the rails when we removed prayer from school. We started to go off the rails for sure when we started doing the action that defies nature, whether it's the animal kingdom or whether it's human beings. Mothers killing their own. It is not how our Creator created us to be. It's just not.
Right. Well, getting back to the dehumanization of the baby, and the campaign that's being used to dehumanize it, because if it's dehumanized, then you can kill it because it's not murder. In Nazi Germany, they did the same thing with the Jews and the Catholics and anyone else they didn't agree with. They dehumanized them. They made them look like, quote unquote, parasites upon their society, and justified the killing of these people because they weren't worthy to basically breathe the same air as the Aryan race. So we see, that issue coming up. And I'd like to just say something real quick And then Jennifer, I want you to give your contact information, but I'd like to say something real quick, especially to the Christians out there, these people that call themselves Christians. If you are a believer in Jesus Christ and you are pro-choice, I'd like to consider the following. Answer me this question. When Mary was found with child of the Holy Spirit, and she had Jesus growing inside her womb from the very moment of conception, if she had gone to one of these clinics that Jennifer's talking about and had a teleabortion, or she would have had an abortion late term or any time during her pregnancy, would she have been killing the Son of God from the very moment of conception? And there is no other conclusion that can be drawn than that, yes, she would have been killing the Son of God even from the moment of conception. So I want you to think of that, you Christians out there that are pro-choice and that argue to me and say that, well, we need to consider the young lady. We need to consider her feelings. Well, I'm not saying that we don't need to consider that. We need to consider the feelings of the young lady and the women out there and what it means to them to have a little baby. And don't forget about adoption out there. But we also, the greater evil is we also need to consider the innocent life of the indefensible young child that is being killed within the mother's womb were they to go ahead with abortion. So, and we're about at 46 minutes. We've got 50 minutes, Jennifer. So I'd like you to share your contact information for the petition and for donations to your organization, if you would do that.
Yes, you can reach us anytime at iowartl.org. We can be reached via email, iowa@iowartl.org, or always toll free, 877-595-9406. And as far as donating, we have a page on our website where you can do that. Or also you can call in and get more information. I would encourage anybody that's listening to go ahead and check out our website. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and you name it, Instagram. But I really encourage you to go to our website in particular because, as we mentioned earlier on in the program, we work very hard as an organization to provide information, get the fact sheets. What is the abortion industry like here in Iowa? We have a fact sheet on Planned Parenthood deaths and injuries across the country. I really would encourage you to check out our website, iowartl.org, for any information that you may be looking for, or to just help equip you in conversations, whether in your family or in your church or whatever. We work very, very hard to provide you information that you just might not find anywhere else.
Okay, great. Also, I'd like to put in a plug for my show. If you'd like to help support Human Rights and Justice for All, we definitely need support for paying for radio time. And you can contact us at humanrightsandjusticeforall@gmail.com, or you can call me at 315-744-0007, and I can help you to give a donation via PayPal. I don't think you even need a PayPal account. I can just send a email to you, and you can just pay through that. Like I say, we're getting. I figure we've got about 8 minutes left on air here. So, are there any things that are just really burning in your heart, Jennifer? You just like to share for a few more minutes?
I was reminded just a few moments ago of we were talking about women as they're confronted with what may be considered an unplanned pregnancy in their life, and I was remembering again I've had opportunities to talk to several women who have had abortions in their past, whether years ago or not too long ago, and every time, almost every single woman that I have heard share their testimony and their pain of choosing an abortion and regretting it, almost every single time in that story, a woman will say, when I found out I was pregnant, I was excited. I was nervous. I didn't